let's talk about the traditional Synergy Debugger a little bit, because a lot of work has gone into this debugger in the last few months. As we already mentioned, the traditional Synergy Debugger, you know, the good old DBR-D or DBR-RD, and you get the DBG prompts and start typing in set break and all that kind of stuff. That's what's happening under the hood with the Visual Studio Debugger. So, you know, some things that we needed to do, particularly from a performance standpoint. So again, many of you will know Ken Lidster, our original founder, and he's been back for a few months and helping us out with this project and rewritten a significant portion of the internals of the traditional Synergy Debugger. There's not a huge amount of brand new features coming out. There are 1 or 2 brand new features coming out, but it's largely about really tightening things up and focusing on really high performance stuff. And in particular so that the Visual Studio debugging experience can work well. And a lot of the benefits are as a direct result of that work. There is a new feature in the set trap statement. So set trap allows you to do a break when there's an error. There's a new ignore qualifier on set trap so that you can say, if there's an unhandled error, break, unless it's one of these. Just don't break for this error and this error and this error. You know, I don't care about record locks, for example, but anything else I want to see. So it lets you be a bit more selective with what you break with. Examining of objects is another area that's been improved. And also now, well, it says improved debugging. It's possible to debug callback routines. If you're using the Synergy.net API and the .net component is calling back into your Synergy code, it's now possible to break and debug those types of scenarios as well. There's a new runtime feature that allows you to basically detect, am I running in debug mode? So if you want to add additional logging code or something like that that only happens when the program's been run in debug, then this will allow you to do that. There's also a little parameter there that allows you to detect whether the code was compiled in debug mode as well. Visual Studio Remote Debugging. Again, this is something I'm just going to mention briefly, and Jeff's going to show you all about when he does his session. There's been the ability added to use Visual Studio to do remote debugging to traditional Synergy on other systems. So clearly you can do remote debugging in Visual Studio of a local project, but now through the use and manipulation of the Telnet debugger, the DBR-RD, you can now attach to a debug session running on a Unix or a Linux system, for example, or another Windows system remotely. So this was something that was initially introduced for debugging of XF Server Plus sessions, as well as using this mechanism to debug local stuff. You can now use it to debug sessions running on other systems. Essentially what that means is you can now use Visual Studio to do your XF Server Plus remote debugging, not have to telnet in from a separate window and so on, and also just any other program. If you've got programs running on a Linux system, for example, that you want to use Visual Studio to debug, you can now attach to that process through the Telnet mechanism.